You know, sometimes it's really hard to be a Mariners fan, just like it has been over the past week as the Mariners just dropped their series to the New York Yankees, coming away with one win in Game 2. Joe and I are going to talk about that series, what went right, and what mainly went wrong for this team. Before Game 3, the Mariners placed Bryce Miller on the injured list, and that got Joe and I thinking. Is it time for the Mariners to potentially make some trades to fill out the missing pieces on this team? We'll talk about who those trade pieces might be, as well as Miller's injury. Joe has his Operation Overreaction coming up that he's definitely prepared for. And then we're going to talk about the San Diego Padres series as the Mariners continue this gauntlet of tough opponents starting on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 191 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav network, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Be sure to give us a 5-star review. And this is the CJ Hilton episode of the podcast. CJ's been very supportive in streams lately, so I wanted to give CJ a shout out here. I'm here with Joe. Joe, how we doing?
Dead inside, a little bit, a little dead inside. You go 1-5 on a 6-game homestand. You got the expected result, I think, in a 3-game set against the Yankees, where your starting pitching is decimated with injury. You have a game where you're facing Max Fried.
Of course, that's the game they won.
Spoilers. A 1-2 series against the Yankees is what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you didn't expect to get swept by the Toronto Blue Jays to kick off that 6-game homestand with the offense cooling off, only scoring 16 runs over those 6 games on the homestand. The pitching continuing to be a problem. It's not a fun time, and that's how quick things can shift for a baseball season. It happened when we got swept by the Giants, and then you win the next 2 series against the Astros and the Rangers, then you rattle off 7 more series wins after that. And then you lose these 2. Maybe they'll go on to win another 8-9 series in a row. Who knows? But right now it does not feel good with where we're sitting at. And this first game on Monday, an 11-5 victory to the New York Yankees. A 6-run 5th inning given up by Emerson Hancock, a changeup left in the middle of the plate, a 3-run home run hit by Austin Wells, to me signaled the dagger. After that, I mean, the Mariners, they had only scored 2 runs up to that point. They managed to score 3 more later. It's just, even with that, it wasn't enough, because it would have been a 7-5 final had the Yankees not scored more in this game.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Obviously, the big news out of this game kind of goes beyond baseball, and that was Oswaldo Cabrera getting injured there. Hopefully, he's going to be all right. But yeah, just rough game all the way around for the Mariners. For Emerson Hancock continuing his issues that he's had at home. Casey Legumina looked good in this game. Troy Taylor, once again, did not. So yeah. Pretty interesting to see what they're going to do with that bullpen moving forward with Troy Taylor, where he sticks in there. And in this game, you saw Cal Raleigh he had a base knock in this game. Randy Arozarena went 2 for 3 as well. Jorge Polanco 1 for 3. So the Mariners bats did okay. This was the most runs they'd scored in like 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
So we felt all right about that. But going into Game 2, this was the game where you had to win it against Max Fried. And in my opinion, the Mariners did a really good job of getting him out of the game in the 5th inning. They put together some really good A-Bs that worked his pitch count a little bit, and Brian Wojo was just fantastic.
Yeah, Brian Wu outdueled Max Fried in this game. It was the one where you look back at our series preview, it's like, oh, great, we get to face Max Fried, but you're lucky that Brian Wu is facing him in this game, because if it was any other pitching matchup, the advantage probably would have swayed even further into the Yankees' favor with Fried on the bump, but Wu does, he shows up when you need him to. Castillo pitched well in the 3rd game. I think that would have been obviously an acceptable start as well against Fried. But the fact that you get Wu here to outduel Fried, goes 6 1/3, 4 hits, no earned, 6 strikeouts, and the Mariners did scratch off 1 against Fried early on in this game. It was a Cal Raleigh double, which was their last hit from the 4th or 5th inning?
The 4th until the 11th.
Until the 11th. Yep. This game does go into extras. A game that maybe didn't need to go into extras.
Yeah.
But a win is a win. Maybe. It definitely is, but you get the walk-off from, I thought Ben Williamson had his first career Mariners walk-off, but I get why you want to make sure that the runner can score.
Can I tell you a story about that?
You may.
So there I was.
Did you almost hit go live?
No.
Oh.
I was sitting here, right? And I was watching the game on my monitor, and all of a sudden the screen goes black.
Oh, no
My
way.
entire PC crashed as we went into the bottom of the 11th inning. And I'm trying to load it on my phone, and it's not working.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
oh my God, what just happened? Like, Ben Williamson's coming up. I hope he... And then I finally get it to work on my phone, and I see Ben Williamson on first base. I'm like, oh my God, did they walk him? And then I saw it was a hit, and I didn't realize, like, you know, that
it was hit hard enough.
Yeah.
The way they were playing. Yeah.
So I was so worried I was about to miss his first career walk-off, but in the end, it was J.P. Crawford.
J.P. Crawford pokes one down the left field line. Barely fair, but barely fair counts, and Tavares scores. Do we want to talk about the errant throw from Dylan Moore, or should we just like...
This game, because of that errant throw from Dylan Moore that ended up making it so the Mariners had to play extra innings, probably affected their game on Wednesday.
That's a reasonable thing to assume. I mean, Munoz does not have a clean ninth. Granted, it does not affect his ERA. His ERA is still 0, has not allowed an earned run. But the Mariners bullpen, I think, they looked great. Like, the entire pitching in this game looked great. Spire, good. Matt Brash looked incredible. Struck out Aaron Judge on 3 straight sliders. Just chef's kiss. Munoz wasn't, like, as effective as he has been all year, but I don't think he was ineffective.
No.
The hit by pitch to Goldschmidt is, like, a weird gray area where it shouldn't have hit him if his hands were staying back, but he moved them in because whatever. And then it hits him on the hand, he gets to first base. There's a missed strike 3 call to Austin Wells that then
results in Goldschmidt going to third.
And then snowballs into another thing where a strike 3 is given to the Mariners, or, you know, a call goes in the Mariners' favor, and then Aaron Boone loses his mind. So it's like, it's an interesting, you know, a dichotomy of a game of how the Mariners ended up winning this one. But they do manage to scratch off a game, and it's the more important one because it is, you know, the Max Fried game where you probably be like, oh, we probably lost this one. The Yankees had not lost a Max Fried start all season. Fried doesn't get pegged with the loss there, but the Mariners did win this game 2-1, which maybe would, you know, propel a little bit of momentum going into the final game, and it felt that way for a while.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident in this game. Luis Castillo shoved in this one. Julio drove in 2 runs pretty early on in this game off of Will Warren. Castillo finished going 6 innings pitched with 6 hits, 1 earned, 2 walked, and 6 strikeouts. Gabe Spire then came in and then immediately gave up a home run to Paul Goldschmidt in that top of the 7th inning. Julio almost hit one out in this game that would have given him all 4 RBI in this game versus the Yankees, which honestly it would have been enough. It would have been 4-3.
Yep.
Julio, of course, also robbed a home run in this game from Trenton Grisham to lead off the game. Really fun way to start this one. But yeah, overall, this was just a rough one. Some more interesting choices from Dan Wilson. Some more interesting choices from the umpires. Will Warren struck out 9, including 5 in a row at one point. So, yeah, the Mariners struck out 15 times in this game. Like, that's obviously a problem. Dylan Moore grounded into a double play because he's slow, apparently, all of a sudden. Yeah.
And then we all know the main thing that we're talking about with Dan Wilson is having Carlos Vargas actually throw him baseballs in the strike zone. You should have just walked Aaron Judge to start the top of the 8th. And Carlos Vargas looked great against the next 3 batters.
Yep.
Would he have done that same way with a runner on? I'd rather find out than have Aaron Judge hit a 117.7 mile an hour homer that goes 444 feet that bounces off one of the poles behind the pen. And probably could have killed somebody if it actually landed and hit someone. It was
crazy.
Smoked. You don't want Aaron Judge to beat you, and that's what Dan Wilson allowed to happen in the final game.
A lot of times, like during this series, I would just say tip your cap to Aaron Judge, but that just felt like the most obvious position to walk him. Mariners only intentionally walked him once this entire series.
And it was in extra innings.
We said do it every single time. That was the only thing that Aaron Judge really did to hurt the Mariners in this series. I mean, he had a couple base hits and whatnot, but no like real damage done for Aaron Judge in this series until Game 3 in that 8th inning. And it just is mind-boggling that Dan Wilson decided to pitch to Aaron Judge in that scenario. Another interesting facet of this game was J.P. Crawford, who walked off the game the night before, was scratched late, right before the start of the game. We found out after the game that it was shoulder soreness. He woke up with a sore shoulder or something like that.
Sure.
I really wish Dan could expand on that a little bit and tell us what that means. Like, was it from when he was celebrating on the field? Maybe like Rowdy bumped into him or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When Arozarena left, was against the Athletics, with his hamstring. He said very quickly after, like, there was announced, like, oh, like Arozarena left with hamstring soreness, and then Arozarena himself said, like, I do not expect to miss more than like one game, or I expect to be back in the lineup this game. I hope we get something like that from JP or from Dan coming on the off day tomorrow. Like, if we are missing JP now for an extended period of time, say it's a couple games, but still, like, JP's been great, and he propelled himself into the top of the lineup in the leadoff spot. If you're missing JP heading in this Padres series, it's another player to add to the long list of injuries that the Mariners unfortunately have sustained to start 2025.
One of the most recent ones being Bryce Miller, who was put on the injured list as well. Jonathan Diaz being called up. That's what I woke up to this morning.
Oh, I know you did.
Yeah.
Trust me, you had not opened the Snapchat that I sent you by the time I was already posting like the short and everything. I'm like, oh, he's gonna wake up to this news.
Yep, that's what I woke up to, was the fact that Bryce Miller was injured. And I'm like, it's not that I wasn't expecting it, because I was fully expecting Bryce Miller to go on the injured list sooner rather than later. I just didn't expect it yet. Yeah. I expected it when George came back, if they decided to not go to a 6-man, which I still think they might do when George comes back, but that's neither here nor there right now. Bryce Miller with elbow inflammation is what they obviously we've seen Bryce so far this year. He struggled mightily, and he said he's had trouble bouncing back. He's had his back lock up. He hasn't been able to locate his pitches, etc., etc. Going on the injured list with this elbow inflammation, Joe, there was actually some good news.
Yeah.
And that was that the elbow is still structurally sound.
Yeah, it's not anything related to the UCL. Hollander said that it should be an IL minimum for Bryce Miller. We don't like to use the term phantom IL because the team can technically get in trouble for that if it's like found out to be bad, like, an actual not injured related, whatever you want to call it, put on the injured list. It's like just going to say the same words over and over again. But with everything that we heard from Bryce and just about what him and the team speaking about him in general, it never felt like his arm or his elbow to me, which as soon as you see elbow inflammation, your brain immediately goes to the worst. So it's nice that you get that information immediately from Hollander that no, it's not as bad as it may look. Could they have done back spasms or back soreness or tightness instead of elbow? Maybe, but there's probably also, naturally, as a guy that threw 180 innings last year, made 31 starts, he might have some elbow inflammation. It's just kind of the natural progression for that. It does seem more of a reset for Bryce, which is something that he's desperately needed. You mentioned just his struggles and him not feeling himself. Going on the injured list, mentally resetting, physically resetting, making sure that he gets right, and especially if it's only the minimum, like, he'll be back by the end of May. It's retroactive to May 12th, I think. So he'll be back for
the next homestand.
For the next homestand, exactly. So that bodes well if that is the accuracy in which they were reporting. Of course, when they originally listed George Kirby's injury, it did not seem like he would miss the first month and a half of the season. But things can develop, things can change. I hope, for as far as Bryce Miller is concerned and his injury reporting, nothing changes, but everything does change for him for the rest of the season, and that he is who we saw last year. Because the Mariners desperately need not only Logan Gilbert to return, George Kirby to return, but for Bryce Miller to be the pitcher that we all expected him to be coming into 2025.
And I think that's the hope with putting him on the injured list and giving him some time off of his feet, and maybe giving him some time to rest that elbow a little bit, or back, or whatever it is that's actually ailing him. Again, with George Kirby on the shelf, with Logan Gilbert on the shelf, now with Bryce Miller on the shelf, you have Brian Wu, you have Luis Castillo, Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock, and Jonathan Diaz as your starting five. You don't feel good about that. And while, yes, it sounds like Miller will be back sooner rather than later, and yes, it sounds like George will be back here towards the end of this month and Logan shortly thereafter, the Mariners may be coming back at full strength. Joe and I think it might be time for the Mariners to go out there and make a trade. Now, we're not saying you need to go get Max Fried, but somebody that you can add to this rotation to help steady out some of these innings missed that these pitchers would have pitched had they been healthy. You would just send Jonathan Diaz back down right now if that was to happen. The first guy on our list, Joe, that I want to mention as a starting pitcher is Andrew Heaney. He's been very good for the Pirates so far this season. He making like $7.5 million. Probably have to pay him like 5.5 right now, maybe. Um, left-handed pitcher. We've seen Andrew Heaney a lot. He's a guy that can cover some innings for you. He hasn't been great throughout his career, but he's off to a great start so far this year. I don't think you expect him to be a guy with like a 2 ERA the rest of the year.
No.
But you expect him to be able to eat some innings for you.
Yeah, up until the last 3 starts, he's been a pretty surprising pitcher for this Pirates team. His ERA, I think, just got north of 3. It's, I think, at like 3.15 right now, but his last 3 starts came against the Cubs, where they tacked him on for some runs. The Padres, where I think he did not go 4 innings, and he, I think, got hit for 4 or 5 runs. And then the most recent start, he went, I think, 5 or 6 innings against the Braves and gave up 2 earned. And it's a guy that has a lot of innings under his belt, a veteran arm. I don't think he's really ever been a part of a big. Oh no, was he on the 2023 Rangers team?
Yes.
I was gonna say he's never been a part of like a big winning team, but I think he got a ring, so that doesn't bode well for me.
When was he with the Dodgers?
Nah, he was like, that was like early on in his career.
It was, but
that was like early on in his career. The Heen dog wasn't doing it like that for the Dodgers, all right? Don't tell me because it's all caps that it's not gonna do it.
You keep talking about Andrew.
No, I got this. Actually, I got this. I'm gonna cook. Don't.
When it comes to acquiring someone like Andrew Heaney, the Pirates suck, right? And they're in a division in that National League Central that is being run by the Cubs right now, and I think that you have to expect it wouldn't take a ton of major league talent to go out there and acquire Andrew Heaney. However, the Pirates would probably want some relatively close to the big league guys in return for Andrew Heaney. I'm not sure what I'd be willing to trade for him.
Dom Canzone.
I would be willing to trade Dom Canzone and maybe like a Dom Canzone and like a.
I'll give up on Troy Taylor right now. I don't care. Dom Canzone and Troy Taylor. I'm kidding. Oh, I'm mainly kidding, but like thinking about like what the Pirates could realistically ask for a guy that is pitching well in the year and it's starting pitching, and they see it as the Mariners have a desperate need for a guy that can maybe eat some innings. It is a weird situation where, yes, we don't fully maybe expect the team to be healthy, starting pitching specifically, the rest of the year. But if you get Miller, Kirby, and Gilbert all back within 3 weeks and you've traded for Andrew Heaney, what do you do with them when they're all healthy? Do you go to a 6-man? Do you have Heaney go long relief out of the bullpen and you just traded decent capital for him? It's a hard situation that if they make a move, it might feel reactionary in a month's time, but it might feel necessary in a week's time because of where they find themselves. 2 series losses in a row, a lengthy 10-game road trip, their last off day. That you're hearing this on the off day. The next one is not until the 26th on Monday. So there's going to be a lot of time in between. So I get why wanting to trade for a starter or just making any trades might feel like a reasonable thing. I don't know if I'm as bought into it as you are.
Well, I think the hard part is we continue to be told that every game matters.
Yeah.
And every game, has a chance to help you make the playoffs. And then you go and send Jonathan Diaz out there to start for you.
Sure.
Like, if the Mariners are as bought into every game matters, they might need to be a little reactionary here. Because, again, if you have to go to a 6-man at the end of when everyone's healthy, do it. I think that you need to be able to keep these guys healthy. And going to a 6-man might do it, giving them an extra day rest in between all of their starts. I don't think it's a bad idea. And when it comes to trading for someone like Andrew Heaney, yeah, I think that's something the Mariners could do. What?
I'm laughing because he was on the Yankees in 21. Like, Yankees 21, Dodgers 22, and then the World Series champion Rangers in 23. Like, those are 3 pretty, like, notable teams all in a row. And I'm like, yeah, he's never been a part of a big team. It's just funny. Did he do anything good for them? Maybe.
A guy who's not on a good team is Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah.
He's been mentioned a lot. So lately in our comments and during streams and whatnot, I don't think the Marlins are going to want to trade low on Sandy Alcantara. He's had a really rough start to the year. He has like an ERA over 8. Yep. Obviously coming back from major arm surgery with Tommy John. And yeah, I don't think they're going to be willing to trade Sandy Alcantara right now when he's the worst that he's ever been in his career. You would have him through next year, and then he has an option the year after that So it's more of a long term like addition to this team. If you're able to go out there and get Sandy Alcantara, I don't know if the Mariners would want to go that long term, or if they'd rather go with someone short like Andrew Heaney, who's just on a 1 year.
That's what it's so hard to navigate the trade market, specifically. Also, you're pretty early on in the season, and then teams like the Twins and the Cardinals just ran off huge win streaks that put them in a position where they're probably not selling. Like, we don't know fully who's going to be selling at the deadline, and there's, like most years, probably only going to be at like 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams that you find will be selling. 2 of which Jerry's never made a trade with, in the Angels and the Rockies. Mm-hmm. So it's like, now you're just you've got limited resources to play with, and if you're looking at Sandy Alcantara as a realistic option, I don't find it overly realistic, because again, like you mentioned, they'd be trading him at his lowest value. He has an extra year of control and a club option. Like, if the Mariners traded for Alcantara, do they trade a George Kirby this offseason to offload, and not offload, but get him at good value, and then not have to pay him as much, and then you just run Alcantara out there as your number 4 at that point, with Gilbert, Wu, whoever's your 3, if it's Miller or if it's maybe Alcantara, depending on how he bounces back. But it's an interesting spot, because you're trading for Heaney at a high, trading for Alcantara on a low. I get the idea of wanting to go out and get a guy that has won a Cy Young, has been the best starting pitcher for an entire calendar baseball season for one specific league. It's nice. It's nice to maybe have that in your back pocket, but I don't think it's super realistic.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that for the Mariners, I don't know if trading for a starting pitcher as a whole is realistic.
I think it's more of like a hybrid guy.
Yeah.
Like, I looked at Bryce Wilson before we started, and it's not pretty, but I could see that being more what they'd rather go with. Or if they had signed Soroka in the offseason like you wanted them to. That, to me, feels more like the avenue that they could go, where it's not someone that you will probably have start more than 5 or 6 games for you if you can avoid it, and then they can be long relief for you out of the pen if that's your desire for them.
Yeah, you kind of need a swing man. I think Nick Martinez is another one, although he's making a lot of money this year because he accepted that qualifying offer, so maybe the Reds would eat some of that.
Yeah.
To go out there and get Nick Martinez. You could put him in the bullpen shortly thereafter. And speaking of bullpen, we do have 2 more trades here we want to talk about. This one, Nathaniel Lowe and Kyle Finnegan from the Washington Nationals. We all know the tale of the tape with Lowe. We faced him quite a bit over the past couple of years, a left-handed hitting first baseman, and Kyle Finnegan, a back end of the bullpen arm. Lowe has 1 more year after this year, and then this is the last year. Finnegan signed a 1-year deal with the Nationals this season. So both guys are options. I don't know if Nathaniel Lowe is actually having that great of a season. I haven't actually looked. I probably should have done that.
He's got a 101 WRC plus.
Yeah, so he's been fine. He'd be a steadying force over there at first base. Now, would you rather have Rowdy over him? I'm not sure. But that's definitely a guy that you could go out there and make that trade for.
Just looking quickly at his page, I mean, he's putting up the worst strikeout percentage of his career. It looks like on a 162 pace. His first 2 years in Tampa Bay, not great, 29% and 36%, and then it levels out to 25 and then 22 for 3 straight years with Texas. It's up to 27% with the Nats right now. A steadying force, yes. Would I just rather maybe run it with Rowdy for a bit longer? Probably. Because what it's going to cost to get him, and then the bigger piece, which is Kyle Finnegan, which is another word that you use, stabilizing force in the back end of your pen. He's got a 3.07 ERA in the year. He is their closer, so he's got 12 saves on the season. He's not nearly as good as Andres Munoz, owned, but no one is owned. So he'd be a nice another add on to the bridge. Like Goldsmith referred to bullpens as an A side and a B side, and how the Mariners have beaten up on the B side of some teams' bullpens this year. Finnegan immediately gets added to the Mariners' A side and slides Vargas to the B side, I think, where you go Munoz, Brash, Finnegan, Spire, and then that allows Vargas to be, I mean, he's been good enough to where it's not the B side, but you get what I'm saying. You have 8 arms in the pen. There's 4 that are going to be always leveraged, and there's 4 that maybe shouldn't be leveraged, but hopefully you have someone in there that can be leveraged if you need him to. Finnegan just adds to the depth. I'm very interested in Finnegan. I'm very interested in Pete Fairbanks at the deadline. I don't know how early the Nats would want to make this trade, though. Are they out of the East? Probably. I mean, you have the Phillies.
The Mets.
The Mets, who are are they the first team to 30 wins, or they're damn near close?
I think that the Tigers might actually be the first team coming up on the first team to 30 wins.
They'll be close. And then the Braves obviously have rebounded since their pretty rough start. So Nats are probably out of it in the National League. It's just, what will it cost to get these guys? Right now, you probably get them cheaper than what you can get at the deadline, because as soon as you get to the deadline, everyone's going to be really overpaying, especially if you're getting two players that'll help you contend if the Mariners find themselves in that position. I like it. I think it does improve the roster as a whole, but what it would cost, it's just hard to really like put into perspective. Like, would I rather just have Tellez stay there at first for the time being?
At the end of the month of May, back in what year was that? 2018, the Seattle Mariners, and I bring this up a lot, traded for Denard Span and Alex Colomé. I bring this up all the time because they were really big pieces for that team in 2018. Obviously, the last year the Mariners really went for it before they went out there and traded all of their high cost guys. But I think that, as we get closer to that May 25th date, seems like a good time to make a very similar trade. The last trade that we want to talk about here is with the Orioles, a team that I don't think anybody expected to be as bad as they are. Obviously, they're in a division right now with the Yankees and with the Red Sox. They're at the very bottom of that division, and they have a couple of guys on that team that I think would make a lot of sense for the Mariners to go get. And we've talked about one of them before, and that is Cedric Mullins. We know Cedric Mullins pretty well. He's had some big moments versus the Mariners in the past. He's making about $8 million. He'll be a free agent at the end of this year, as will Ryan O'Hearn. And on the season, he's hitting 229, 340, 435 with a 125 WRC plus, 13.1% walk rate. That is crazy. 6 stolen bags on the year with a 21.6% strikeout rate. I think Cedric Mullins, also, he's a guy that I think it makes sense defensively for the Mariners to go out there and add. You'd put him over there in right field.
Yeah, he is better Leody Taveras, who is better Ryland Thomas. Like, it's the Pokemon evolution chain. If you say Ryland Thomas is the baby version, and then Taveras is the middle evolution. I hope Taveras levels out a bit more. I don't think this is like, I think we're in a stretch. I mean, he's had 8 games where he got off to like a pretty decent start and then has kind of scuffled. I feel like he might be able to find a bit more of a middle ground, but that's neither here nor there. We'll kind of have to just wait and see. But if the Mariners do pull off a trade for a guy like Cedric Mullins this early on, that seems like it could have a similar amount of impact as the Denard Span aspect that you're bringing up. The other person you mentioned is Ryan O'Hearn, who I compared him to Rowdy Tellez, and you said, no, he is just better Rowdy Tellez, and Rowdy's off the roster. Because I said it's kind of repetitive, and you're right. Ryan O'Hearn's been great this year. A 173 WRC plus in 114 plate appearances. He's got 7 home runs. He's hitting 303, 395 with a 556 slug. He's walking 11% of the time, which is above league average, and striking out at only 14.9% of the time, which is way better than league average. His problem, I don't know does he play first base?
He came up as a first baseman.
But does he still play first base? Can you just stick him over there and just call it a day?
Dylan Moore play first base? He shouldn't.
There
you go. Then first base. Look at all that. Look at all that first base. He hasn't played it with the Orioles because they have Ryan Mountcastle.
Yes.
But, oh well. You can also put him in right field if you need to.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm completely dismissing the idea. You're getting a little defensive.
I like Ryan O'Hearn.
I know you do. I'm just saying from his perspective, or from the team perspective, you can't have another guy come in and be a DH only because of the way Polanco and, I mean, if they continue to want to get Mitch Garver at bats. Polanco is the DH against right-handed pitching. O'Hearn's probably really only going to play against right-handed pitching as well, for the most part. So I think having him in a corner outfield is probably okay. You can stash him out there. I don't think it's I don't know if it's going to be bad like Kyle Schwarber going out there. And if he can still put on a glove at first and Perry Hill can take him back to his roots, then sure, I think O'Hearn does make a lot of sense. I think I might rather just have Mullins given team. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think I agree with that sentence. I was going to say something. I don't think I agree with it. O'Hearn does make a lot of sense. And with the Orioles being in a very tough American League East, I think the Mariners should be able to go out there and make an offer on him. He will be a free agent at the end of the year. So he's getting, I mean, what do you have to pay him the rest of the year? $5 million.
Yeah, probably give or take.
Something like that. They already took on money for Leody Taveras, so I don't know how that impacts the way that they look at the trade market. But again, I'm going to be I'm gonna sound like a Jerry defender.
Oh God.
But the additions you get at the deadline with the players coming back from injury, if you go out and get a Mullins, if you go out and get an O'Hearn, those at bats later down the line in the year, assuming everyone's healthy, like I don't know how you divide them and make it all work for the way we expected the roster to play out at the beginning of the year. But it's not the beginning of the year. They all got hurt. It's not what you expected. So you have to kind of stick and move, and you have to kind of make adjustments on the fly. A good team wouldn't care about what I'm saying, but I think this front office does.
I think that if that's the case and everyone comes back and is healthy, you just trade Ryan O'Hearn or Cedric Mullins at the deadline. If everyone's back at the deadline, just trade them.
You just trade them again?
Trade them again. Who cares? Who cares?
Whoa.
Like
it's a business, huh?
It's a business.
Damn.
These guys for the Mariners, if they get healthy, awesome. But until then, the guys who are running out there aren't good. Rowdy Tellez has not been good. Donovan Solano has not been good. Ben Williamson has been struggling mightily lately. In some of these big games coming up, specifically against the Padres, Joe, I think we're probably just... You want to skip your operation overreaction?
My operation overreaction will be that if they make a reactionary trade, they they won't make a trade. Like they will. We're skipping it.
All right.
I couldn't come up with something.
So the Mariners are going on to play the Padres, but a very tough series for them. Obviously, the Padres. I mean, Fernando Tatis the other day with that walk-off home run.
Yeah.
Aura, all over the place. Just all over the field. All.
Don't make it weird.
The Mariners are, after the off day, have a pretty tough schedule, pretty tough series against them. It is, as of right now, let's talk mainly about the Padres, guys, because I do think the Mariners might reslot.
Yeah, they should.
So Stephen Kolek for the Mariners obviously came up in the Mariners for the Padres came up in the Mariners organization.
He threw a shutout the other day.
He did. He was very, very good. The Mariners are facing some really good pitchers during this series, which maybe is a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, they beat Skubal. They beat Max Fried. I mean, they beat Hunter Brown.
Garrett Crochet.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's a good thing that they're facing all these pitchers, but
Copium.
Kolek's been really good on the year. He has a 0 ERA. He's striking out 6.9 batters a game, which honestly isn't that good. But 14 innings pitched so far this year. I think that the Mariners, with that lineup, might be able to do some damage to Stephen Kolek, but I don't know if I feel confident about that.
No, I mean, the Padres have been pitching well all year. They have a team ERA of 3.38. I'm sure that's pretty inflated recently with like the Robert Suarez grand slam that they just gave up the other day. Yeah, starting pitcher ERA for the Padres is 3.43. Like they're a good baseball team. These last two series, Yankees and Padres, we're facing probably, I mean, this is behind the Tigers and Giants. Like, these are like the top 4 teams in America probably played all year, right?
Yep.
And so you're facing Kolek in game 1. You get maybe a better draw. Like, maybe you like your chances against Kolek because he's only made like a handful of, like, he's pitched a collective 100 innings in the big leagues, if that. No, 60 innings. Yeah. 60 innings in the big leagues. Like, not even that many. So maybe you get him on a bad day for whatever reason. Then you get Nick Pivetta, who on the season in game 2, he's got a 5-2 record with a 3.05 ERA. He struck out a fair amount of Mariners last year when he was with the Red Sox. It's not going to be a pretty series if you're not a fan of watching the Mariners strike out, especially given that they showed maybe a little bit of their strikeout warts against Will Warren and the Yankees in the final game, striking out 15 times. They've been around league average. If there was ever a series to put them worse than league average, it's probably against these 3 pitchers for the Padres, because the final game is Michael King, who has got a 2.32 ERA and he struck out 56 batters on the year. It's not going to be easy. It's an uphill battle for the Mariners in the Vetter Cup, especially in San Diego. San Diego is going to be raucous. They have Tatis. They have Manny Machado. Like, this is a good baseball team. It's hard to win series against good baseball teams, but like you mentioned, the Mariners, they've played well against the harder starting pitchers on the year. Like, well enough, right?
Yeah,
Like
I wouldn't say they played well, but they've done their job.
they've played well comparatively to the level of competition.
Mm-hmm.
You expected Crochet to absolutely shove. You expected Max Fried to go 7. He goes 5. Like, you beat Tarek Skubal. Sure, it was a 2-1 game, I think, or a 3-2 game. Dylan Moore got lucky and poked one out. But if there was ever a time for the Mariners to like kind of nut up or shut up against the best starting three set of starting pitchers that they'll face all year, it's this series where they'll probably have to reslot because Fangraphs roster resource currently has Jonathan Diaz slated to start game 1. This does make sense with his current day's rest, and last time he pitched was on the 9th. So it does make sense, and maybe they just want to bite the bullet and have Diaz start the first game. But we think otherwise.
Yeah, they should probably reslot and have it go Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock, and then Brian Wu in this series, and that way you can reset Jonathan Diaz to be more in line with where you will have George Kirby coming back instead. That would put him in line to probably pitch the first or second game of the White Sox series, which would then in turn put Kirby in there to probably face the second or the third game, I think, of that Astros series. So, yeah, Jonathan Diaz, Logan Evans, and Emerson Hancock, that's just not a good combination to run out there against one of the best teams in the National League.
That's like legitimately you're trying to punt a series sweep.
Yeah, that like this is a series where the same thing I said about the Yankees, just don't get swept, and I'll be all right. You know what I mean? I'll manage. I'm gonna be pissed, but I'll manage. If the Mariners win this series, it's gonna be a freaking miracle.
Yeah, and if they do reslot, I think you have a better chance because you have a game where Brian Wu will start against the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't reslot, winning this series seems like almost as improbable as getting swept by the Blue Jays at home. You know what I mean? Like given the current status of the team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if Diaz does start against the Padres, I mean it's an Apple TV game on Friday. I work, so I probably won't watch it.
I'll watch it.
It'll be interesting if Diaz does make this start. And even if you push him back into the White Sox series, I don't think it really affects where Kirby starts for the Astros series because then you could just kind of reslot with calling him up, right?
Yeah.
If he starts game 1 on Thursday against the Astros, then that can push everyone else back a day.
True. Good
So
point.
That I'm not super worried about having Diaz pitch against the White Sox and that moves George further back. You can just kind of call him up as a fresh arm, given he'll pitch on the 16th, and that puts him at 6 days rest, and then he'll be good to go. And then that gives everyone who maybe got less rest by reslotting, by not having Diaz face the Padres and rather him face the White Sox, that'll give them their rest back there.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel good about that White Sox series, though, right? You go Diaz, and then you got Castillo, and
sure,
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Hopefully, although the White Sox have been pretty good this month. So
I mean, they took down the Astros earlier.
Yeah, so it's not going to be an easy series there. It's a rough stretch of games for the Seattle Mariners right now, and I think we're all just kind of taking it one day at a time. But that's going to do it from us here on episode 191 of the Hit It Here podcast. We appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.